good day, and welcome to the Power Up. I'm your host, Tami Hill Thomas. So glad you're joining us once again to get equipped, empowered, educated, and elevated so that we can be difference makers where we are. Let's start first with Inside the News as we share information newly released by the United Nations Foundation. World leaders at the United Nations Summit of the Future adopted three foundational agreements to safeguard our future for generations to come. Imperfect but important, the Pact of the Future, Global Digital Compact, and Declaration on the Future is what the document is titled. As world leaders came together, focused on how to address the essential basics, those that should be the floor, the ceiling, the needs for how we deal with a turbulent world. Under pressure, the world has chosen the path of cooperation. Three landmark agreements were reached after extremely tough negotiations at the Summit of the Future. It was held in New York and brought together the minds and the hearts of individuals that we elect to represent countries around the globe. This reflects the willingness of the overwhelming majority of the United Nations member states to find common ground in the face of conflict, polarization, and distrust. Why is this important, family? Well, it's important because we understand the value of voice. No matter where you are around the country, our brothers and sisters around the water and those here in these United States all matter. And this summit took the opportunity to address critical gaps in a collective way. They did action. They took action. They didn't just meet and talk. There was documents and processes that were forged to make sure that individuals could be heard, represented, not even birthed yet. We're talking about impacts to the future. This will endure and set concrete commitments that can be implemented and help emerge in areas where consensus is necessary so that there's a global reform starting now that will start see benefits in the coming years. The Pact of the Future matters because it was catalyst innovations, collaborations, and coalitions that looked beyond the current state to see what would happen and what the world might need in dealing with future outcomes, future outbreaks, future wars, future climate issues. So they came together to develop a blueprint to grow on things that they might have even learned in the Cold War, in other wars, and figure out a way to bring all of the stakeholders from countries around the globe together so that governments could share their voice and concern and then build support for common goals. We're all one human race, right? We all have some basic necessities in life: food, water, education, safety, a place to call home. And so to know that the United Nations Foundation has led this effort is triumphant news. See, we often face what we're dealing with right now, and we forget that the same way our ancestors paved the way for us to be in the place where we are is the way we ought to make sure we focus on those generations that are coming behind us. A major summit is important because it paused life for our leaders to bring consensus. The Summit of the Future took on peace and security as prime agenda items. Isn't that important? to know what happens when coalitions have their own agendas, when other countries decide that they want to arm up and defend and take aim at one country. How United Nations means we all stand together against the threats of humanity. You can find more about this summit, about the outcomes and the information as you go to the United Nations Foundation, unfoundation.org. Information that can not just share how this summit was impactful, but other ways that you can give and donate to help the global reach of humanity. See, whether it's a village in Africa or whether it's a small town a Sudan, whether it's the gang violence in Haiti, those who are dealing with wildfires in Canada, it really does not matter what the issue. It just matters that issues are addressed because every brother and sister matters, not being judged by the outside. Our hearts are still with Ukraine and still with Israel and still with all of those who are dealing with battles in war torn countries, even those that aren't spoken of in the news. You can make a difference. Go to unfoundation.org. The United Nations Foundation is certainly what something you should know what your taxpayer dollars go to have a representative represent you in these united as the United Nations come together. Learn, get educated, and then tell someone else about it. And let's continue to make a difference where we are. Family, we hope this information was helpful. Anytime we get global changing news, impactful news, something that's going to make a difference for our babies, the Power Up team is going to make sure you're aware. Go take a minute and do your own research and then be that voice for good. Ah, well, after that powerful information, I'm already super energized. Family, we have a top-notch guest joining us today. Someone I am just so honored is coming to the Power Up. I promise you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned. There's more after this.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Red Pat Flowers, wife of Pastor Mark A. Flowers, pastor who is the pastor of Bissonnette Baptist Church. And I would like to extend to you a very warm invitation to join me each and every morning, 6:30 a.m. Central Time, 7:30 Eastern. I follow right behind the Empowered Morning Show with the host, Angela, Regina, and Sparkle. So you get back-to-back empowerment. You get the word. That's all it's all about. We want to see you change. We want to see you grow. I want to see you change and grow. So join me once again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, 6:30 a.m. Central, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, right behind the Empowered Morning Show with the host, Angela, Sparkle, and Regina. Even if I say the names back and forth, you know they're the same women, the same two women. So join me. I invite you to join me. Be blessed, my friends. Be blessed.
Welcome back to the Power Up family. Listen, one of the wonderful things about this show is that our production team brings the best of the best from around the globe. We don't look for this show to be just a norm. We want you to leave equipped and empowered and have an opportunity to meet folks that maybe you never would in your communities. There's no exception today as we are joined by a phenomenal individual who has changed many things in his life to help impact others. I want to welcome to the Power Up the phenomenal Mr. Brian Thompson, who is hailing from the great state of Maryland. Brian, family, for many, has done everything from leading community initiatives and community efforts, traveling the world, educating others to impact medically, medical professionals and to pioneer, man, research on the cancer front. We're going to talk more with Brian about all of the things he has touched. Brian, for many who may have never met him, is living Black history. He is one of those who has taken his gifts in the world and found a way to connect and make it amazing so that it impacts us all. I promise you, this is a face behind something you use on a regular basis. As Brian gets ready to join us, we're going to share with him a viewer inquiry. We received an email. You all know we love when you send your questions to us. We're excited to be able to poise and hear from an expert who does this on a regular basis, works in the government, but still has time to give and share, does one-on-one mentorship and one-on-one counseling. One of the things that we make sure in the Power Up when we bring individuals is not just the opportunity to introduce a face you may never see, but to also remind you of your worth, of how inside you are gifts and talents that can change the world. We want to remind you in this space that there's no gift too small that can't change things around you. And here's the thing, we often say change the world and think that means the whole entire globe. Your part of the world might be all you change. But isn't that enough? Isn't that amazing? Isn't that a huge number? Your little city, town, maybe your neighborhood, right? Maybe the church or the parish that you attend, the different community civic associations that you join. You have the ability to make a difference. As our producers bring in Brian, when he's able to join us, we're going to hear from all of the insight that he has and welcome him to this amazing platform. Welcome, Brian Thompson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Awesome. Great. Just so glad that you are here with us from wherever you are around the globe, because I know that you are one of those that gives your heart. Let me just do this. I want to help folks know who I'm speaking to. Can I just drop it with an easy way?
Sure.
We have the gentleman who is the designer of the $50 bill and the $100 bill that's currently in circulation. So I like to share that because people might go, oh, that guy. And now it becomes personal. Brian, you are 36 years, you've been a banknote designer with the federal government. And over 35 years, you've worked as a community voice in ministry and outreach and leading change. And I want to just start by welcoming you to the Power Up family and ask you some fundamental questions like, where did you start? What made you start? And where do you see yourself going?
Where did I start? I really started when I was a child. And not to be grim, but one thing about me is that when I was 13, when you deal with certain abuses, and it wasn't like a physical abuse, it was more of a verbal. And it wasn't a verbal abuse that I don't even think my own parents were aware of. You got to realize sometimes parents try to do the best they can and raise you. And me having autism at that time, where there was no such thing as autism, during that time period when I was growing up, my dad did the best he could. So in the best he could came off as verbal abuse to the point where I felt like I wanted to end my life at 13. So I reached out to a local church where my aunt had taken me. And I went and got involved in the church very heavily and never turned back. So my faith really and God really propelled me for everything I do and giving back to community. And that's just pretty much my hallmark. I continuously will always do that because my life was saved. I am now responsible for saving others.
Wow. See, folks don't think that the personalness of what we deal with drives us. And it's actually quite the opposite. So thank you for your transparency with that. You wear so many hats. I'm kind of just going to take them one at a time, if that's okay. And we do have a viewer question I'm going to toss to you, because you're also someone who is the voice of hope on a global platform. So we want to allow you an opportunity to share your heart with someone who might just be tuning in today looking for some type of inspiration. But let's start with the fact that you designed money that's currently in circulation. Wow, that's not a small feat. And then that your Black history, you are the first African American to do that. How powerful is that?
I always look at it as God putting me in a position to inspire. Yeah, it was Black history. It was also American history, but it's a shadow of America to a certain degree, and things that need to improve. Because I always say, when I hear, "Hey, you made Black history," I always ask God, why is it always I have to be the first, or why is there always a first? There's always a first because something's off balance. And I thank God that He's allowing first to come about so that we can actually balance things out for America. Because if we're a country of democracy and equality, then He has to use people like myself and others to kind of raise the bar of people to look at us not just as celebrities, but people as a sign of hope. And that's really how I operate. I walk in total humility. If you walk with me for years, I don't even talk about my job or anything I do. I'm just Brian. And that's how I always found myself to be, because I always want people to feel comfortable in the room walking with me. I don't even tell people I'm a pastor, because I don't want them to get hung up on, oh, you're a pastor, let me change who I am. No, be you. Please be yourself, because I want to know who the real you are. You is. Who are you? I don't want you to put the cover on. Don't put the mask on and hide who you truly are, because I want to see who you truly are, so you can see who I truly am, and hope that what I bring to the table makes an impact in your life for change, if there needs to be change. So that's where that whole being a light unto the world comes from. I try to be that exemplified in the world. Be the light. I don't have to say anything. I just want to walk in the room and be that light, or a beacon of hope for people when I walk in the room, when no one knows who I am. That's how Jesus walked. He would walk in the area. No, they knew who He was, but they knew about what He had done. They didn't know who He was.
Powerful. How powerful. Now, I'm not going to fool our audience. Brian is someone that I call a friend, and I'm grateful for that. We've walked the journey. I've witnessed your humility and your heart, right? I am a product of it. I am a beneficiary, because when you're with real folk, it's not, like you said, about the fame or the money.
Yeah.
It's not about the excess. We don't focus on that. We focus on the doing good and being difference makers.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you do have the opportunity to stand in places the average person might not. God has afforded you the opportunity to travel and speak with others where there's an interpreter needed.
Yes.
God has afforded you opportunities, right? You are in places representing our government, the president, and those in high offices in different places where you speak for them. So, if you would, on the professional side of the amazingness of you, because you do represent professionally with excellence, right? Like when people hear of the guy who designed 100 and they introduce you, they don't expect you to walk up there.
Right.
And you show up and rise up in a way that is amazing to see and honorable, in a place that doesn't first often see African American men, to be very fair, and also younger versions of us. I mean, we might be grandparents to some, but we're not, in the rolling around, right? Like, you're using everything that you can to be that guy. Tell us on a professional realm, in those voices, in those rooms where maybe celebrities and those that have money, those places where there are folks who are there, the rest of us could never sit or speak with.
Uh,
I want to ask $1 million question of you. What's it like?
it's humbling. It's very humbling. I've been in, I've been invited to dinners where I'm sitting around the room or at the table with multimillionaires, and it's a beautiful opportunity to have my wife sit beside me to see this world. But what I realize is that that world's really no different than the world we walk in. They go through the same stuff we do. Um, and what ends up happening is I become a sense of, excuse me one second, I have no idea what it is, a sense of hope in the midst of their struggles because I'm walking in peacefully. It's just peacefully. We all have our own issues, but I'm walking in peacefully. I have no idea who's calling me on that phone. um, and it's been beautiful. I've actually had an opportunity to work with Macy Gray with her album cover. She called me, and that was fun. That was a fun project. Um, I've met some very powerful people, and almost just on a just a friendly aspect of just, hey, how are you? Not necessarily not who are you and what have you done. Mainly, who are you as a person? And those, the scripture says your gift will make room for you, and that's really what's happened. Made so many doors swing open for me that I just walk through, and just be me. I just will not allow myself to get in a prideful position because of my accolades, because it can be taken away at any time.
That part, that part, how important that is. So, um, in those places, one of the things that I appreciate that you just mentioned is how folks are still folks, and how even those folks have struggles.
Mhm.
And you're in those places oftentimes, maybe just to have the opportunity to speak to them.
Yes, just to speak with them, just to recognize, it's almost like them looking in the mirror. It reminds them of who they are and where they may have come from, because a lot of people forget where they come from when they reach those high levels, and they just stay in that space and not retain or want to go back to where they come from. And that's a problem, because I've always believed wherever you come from, you should return to give that information back so that others can get out. Um, it doesn't even have to be a traumatic place. Some people are just in a mental space of just struggle, no matter where they live. And if you can be a sense of hope from your hope that God has given you, it really helps people. It helps people to understand, you know what, I don't have to stay in this place. I can elevate myself out of this. So that's just amazing to be able to walk in a room, be hopeful to people, and watch them elevate out of it, and just watch from afar. I'll give you a good story. I was years ago. I used to do portfolio reviews with this organization called Organization of Black Designers, and it was a group of all of us from different aspects of the art community, from footwear design to you name it, to hubcap designers that work with, Toyota. And it was a young man that walked up to me, and I looked at his portfolio, and he says, I really want to have my own company where I can design my own bikes. Well, what was very interesting, I had a Black Enterprise magazine that I just brought with me to that trip. And there was actually a designer that was a Black designer that started his own company. I gave that article to that young man, and I looked at his portfolio and talked to him about going to a school that would actually enhance his giftings in that area. I received the email probably 2 years after that this young man had started his own company. So it's something as small as that, where you can turn someone's entire life around just by just introducing them to a sense of hope. And he ran with the information I gave him, and this young man started his own company. That was years ago. I haven't spoken to him or even know where he is now, but to know that he started his own company from just that seed. You know, it says faith is, you know, it's like the size of a mustard seed. It's the size of a mustard seed. It's extremely small. And I think people really look at social media where they feel like they got to do everything so big. That's not how God set this up. We have to do things small and let it grow. Let it grow. Let that idea grow. You know, let those things grow within you so that you can birth out and become bigger than a mustard seed. And the thing about a mustard seed, it bursts into a plant that produces what? More seeds. So that's what faith does for us. When you walk in a room, you drop faith. You drop your seed down so it spreads to other people so they have a sense of hope in this dying world.
Isn't that awesome? That we and again, I'm going on the faith path with you, my friend. One waters, God gives the increase.
Amen.
Right? So each of us have a job in that. One sows,
Yeah.
one waters, God gives the increase. Okay. So but see what I love about this conversation is when you're sitting suited up in that suit that is like, whoa, I mean, like the excellence that I've seen you pull out your closet. When you're suited up, it's amazing that the humility and the conversation and your tone and your voice stays the same. People feel calm when they speak to you, regardless of what it is. And you're absolutely right. It draws folks. So for 36 years, you have taken, at least your employer became the federal government for 36 years. Prior to that, you just like to draw?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, yes. So it was more than drawing. I'll tell you, you know, and I'll put it out there. We both went to the same high school. We went to Suitland High School. And that particular group within those years was a very special group because I was one of the first ones to go through their school. That was a visual performing arts school. We were the guinea pigs. So my class did not receive the scholarships or the multi-million-dollar scholarships that they received after our class. But what we got was the training. Not that they don't get the training. We got the training of what to do and what not to do. You know, the teachers were still trying to figure things out to make sure that, you know, that the school was really good. And we saw the nuts and bolts of everything. And I'm thankful for that because we were pretty much trained very hard, to the point where my portfolio was equal to college graduates when I did apply for that job. And I wasn't the first pick. I was the second pick. The first pick turned the job down because they said, well, I don't want to feel like I'm in prison where I can't go out to lunch. So then they called me. And then I took the job. And I was right out of high school when that happened. So God had things ordained for me from that point on. I wanted to go to college on that, but I didn't. I actually started in the government and I did a 7-year apprenticeship. 7 years. And I did all 7. Plus, I had to finish a associate's degree also in the midst of those 7 years. So it was always these different hurdles and leaps that was put in front of me, almost like creating obstacles, but they really weren't obstacles. They was actually training ground to do more battle. So I didn't have an issue with that. So,
oh, I'm stealing that. I want you to know I'm giving you credit, but I'm stealing that. Oh, that's good.
The more obstacles they tried to put in front of me, God would show me ways to get over it and get upon it. And I use it as fuel and I use it as energy to strive more. So with that kind of mindset, it didn't matter what project they put in front of me. I was always going to try to conquer it and try to make it be the best I've ever done. My whole objective as a banknote designer is to create a design that cannot be counterfeited. That was just my mentality. That's what the job title was. And my mentality was always that way. I would always look at reports from the Secret Service, and they said they had much difficulty trying to counterfeit the 100 to the point where they moved to the 50s. Now that right there is like, I did my job. I did exactly what I was told to do. And I take what not only my job is, I have to honor God in that entire process and try to be the best I can be. Not with pressure, not by putting pressure on myself, but to just constantly pull on God and his strength to do my job with excellence. And that's how I operate in every single aspect that I do. from my job as a pastor, as a husband, as a father. I have to walk those lines with God, empower me to do all of those things. Because if I get out of line, God is the only one that's going to correct me. And I have to be humble enough and be responsible enough with a relationship with him to know when to get myself together, because I'm not perfect. No one is. No one is perfect. But you have to have a place where you see you and allow God to change you. And that's where I'm at. And I'm on that daily walk every single day. When none of us have arrived, I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday.
I'm so glad you joined us today. I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. I'm putting that on my vision board. I'm going to put it on my computer. See, speaking life makes a difference, and it's to everyone. We're
Mhm.
all human,
Right.
right? And you and I are in the circle of some people who know people.
Mhm.
That's not a thing. Name dropping does nothing but give you a reward.
Right.
But if you can, in that presence, be what is needed for others, that's what makes the difference, right? Okay, so
Sure.
thank you for reminding us, because some people, I'm going to be very transparent, some people see gifts as, oh, that's a side hustle.
Mhm.
Oh, I like to play music. Oh, I like to sing. Oh, and we limit ourselves. Your story, for me, is not just about the fact that you were dealing with developmental issues as a child and overcame those. You're a global speaker.
Mhm.
Except that you said, I grew up with autism. Who would know?
Right.
Right? And then for those who draw, people think they put them in a box too. Oh, that's just drawing. Do something that's more right. But you found the power in the gift and then walk the journey. I personally, I love to share this story, and I do love to reiterate how you are history, because many of us look at history as Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, and it's not attainable. But we have breathing, walking, impacting right now in the planet someone that is important. And I am not going to ever let you forget that, bruh. I appreciate all that you do, because I've seen it on so many levels. Okay, but I want to keep going. If you still have time, I want to
I
hang.
do.
Can you hang with me a little longer?
I
I'm
got
going
you
to get
with that.
all of this. Thank you, sir. So we've talked about the fact that you do exemplify excellence on Capitol Hill and in DC and in different places and even worldwide, where you have to represent our country. You've been honored for a lot of the work that you do. Amazing painting behind you. You're not just a drawer, you're a painter, you're an artist, designer.
Mhm.
For the Record family, he designed the logo for my company years ago. Oh, I'm just going to tell it all. I promised you I wouldn't tell too much, but because there's a gift in you, right? So digitally, you also have those gifts. You've also blessed others, and even now moved into an advisor consultant. Um, and I'm just so heartfully proud of the impact that you're making. You've been honored by the Prince George's County Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
That is important, because that means that your local government, your county where you reside, took time to also solidify your voice in the community. How did that feel?
That honestly was the biggest honor of my life, because when you go through the school system of PG County, for some reason we always got a bad rap, and it was unbelievable to me. But a lot of good things came out of PG County. A lot of great things came out of PG County. A lot of impactful people have come out of PG County, and I was happy to be one of those impacts. When they called, I was shocked, and I was very happy. And it's actually the greatest gift the greatest award I've ever received. Yeah, I did the 100. The new passport that's out, I've done the data page for that. Those things are nationally recognized, but for me, receiving an award like that from your peers and from
Yeah.
the county where you were educated, that's a bigger benchmark than anything I've ever received. And the cool thing about it was, I would say a month prior to that, I was actually called by Angela Alsabrook's office. and they asked me if I would do a painting of her. This is when before she became a senator. And this was about 2 years ago, I believe. And I said, sure, I wanted to do one of her anyway. They was like, oh, really? I said, yeah, I have a picture of her and everything. So I had already done a painting of her and had the opportunity to present it to her, I believe, when she became the county exec, whatever the last position she was. That it was when she got sworn in, and also Governor West was sworn in around the same time. So like you said, I've been in places and been invited to stuff that a lot of people never got a chance to. And I just walk with poise, confidence, and also humility in those rooms, because I recognized she also operated like that. When we met, was the first time I met her is when I actually put that painting in her hand and showed it to her constituents and all of those people that were backing her there. If that right there was another pivotal moment. And to see what she's achieved just last week, I was sitting there like, wow, thank you, God, for being a part of those type of being a part of people's lives like that are just still rising. I was so happy for her and what she's going to represent to our state. I'm not making a plug for her, but in the same way, she has such a great heart, and she has one of those humble hearts that God has given me. And I love to see people elevate to that higher level to not only give him glory, but to help the constituents of our state.
Isn't that powerful, man? And listen, it's different when you recognize by your own folk. Because
Yeah,
your own folk, the same folk that'll tell you how it is and put you under at the same time. So when
right.
I totally, and well deserved, brother, well deserved. Again, so much that you do in the community. Okay, so I know we're going to wrap up in a little while, but I have to do this. If folks haven't noticed, you even mentioned you are a pastor,
Yep.
an apostle by title, to be correct.
Yep.
Easel Outreach. Easel Outreach is actually your ministry.
Yeah.
So, to help get some more of this picture of Brian Thompson, works 9 to 5 with the federal government, still has his own business where he designs, paints, does all of this to keep his family eating and keep his heart going. Also leads community initiatives to impact change, and is a pastor of a church. How do you do it all?
Honestly, by God's strength, we just recently moved into our own building. We were at Lake Arbor Community Center for a year, and we finally got into our own building. We actually are in the building with Millennium Church, which was there for 20 years. We're now in that space, and we transformed it, put our colors in there, put our mark on it as Easel Outreach. The plan for Easel is to do exactly what Suitland did for me. The reason why it's called Easel Outreach is so that people that want to learn to do artwork, children, adults, whomever, will be able to walk into that facility when we have designated days for art classes to walk in for free. And I'm going to train them and teach them everything I know on how to be a powerful, someone that walks in humility, not a banknote designer, but an artist. I've always believed that giftings are within our DNA. God bursts it within us, but it has to be someone that taps it into you and bursts it out. And a lot of times, what I learned from just the people that go to our church, some people have never been to church before. We have a ministry where we literally have conversations on Sundays, not preached messages, where me and my wife are sitting there in chairs and we're delivering a message, but we will not let them walk out of there without having some reflection points back, asking them questions. What did you learn? What are your points? What would you like to add to this? And that's every Sunday, because God said, I want you to answer a question. When people say they've gone to church, what's the first thing they say? Church was awesome, but what did he preach about? A lot of people can't tell you. So with Easel, the way God had us design it is that you will be able to walk out with what we talked about, but also minister it to your neighbor, your family member, and anyone you run in contact with, because it continues on, which is discipleship. And you're actually telling exactly what we talked about. So we're developing community with conversation. We're developing community with having a godly conversation that impacts the world. That's what Easel Outreach stands for.
That is so awesome. And free art classes.
Yeah, that will be starting probably January, February, because
Wow.
we want to always do things in excellence and not bombard. So we're kind of like adding that part in probably January or February. We're also going to be adding a podcast where me and my wife are just talking. And we're going to invite people in to have more general conversations. It's just ministry done differently. We have a lot of churches in our area. We have a ton of them. We have a lot of mega churches, small churches. We're church, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. We're church to death, to the point where you get tired of one and swing to another. But are these churches transforming your life? And God wants church or ministries to transform life, not only your life, but that you birth out the ministry that you're called to do and you continue the process. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're called to do, is birth out those gifts in people and get them set to a point where they start their own ministries within them. That's important. That's very important. We have enough members. We don't have enough workers.
Mm, community conversations. That's amazing. Bruh, and then it's not over.
No,
With all of this, there's still so much that you're dealing with. There's still so much you're tapped into. Congratulations on the amazing opportunity to work with those in the United Kingdom
oh
on
yeah,
this huge breast cancer initiative. Tell
yeah.
us about it.
I got a phone call during COVID, and I put my information on LinkedIn, as a banknote designer. They gave me a call and said, hey, we have this project that we want you to work on, if you don't mind, where we want to do a banknote design with the women, 5 women that have metastatic breast cancer. But we want to put their families or things that are important to them, their hobbies and who they are, shown in a banknote form, kind of messaging it being a banknote. And the reason why we want to do this, we want to let folk know that their life is worth something. What the original plan was to do a design, have them printed out, and burn them in front of their capital to get the attention of the government. But they changed courses once they saw all the designs and how they started coming out. They actually had an opportunity to present these designs to, I believe, the UN, their government. And right there on the spot, she called all the ladies up that were on those currency notes. One of them actually passed, but I think she had a representative, maybe her daughter or something, that was there in the UN. And she announced that day that she will make sure that there's money allocated for metastatic breast cancer from this point on. It is now within policy. It is now within their government to put monies towards metastatic breast cancer. One thing I told them when I took this project on is that, I don't do projects just to do them. I want to make sure the projects are impactful. And they knew that about me from day one. That's why they called. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to make sure that my art impacted change, and it did. And that's one of the other projects I'm so happy about, is because women in the United Kingdom will have monies if they ever get metastatic breast cancer, that there's money allocated to help them with their, getting cured. So that's what my art is. My art is, I always wanted my art to be impactful. And everything that God has set me up to do, it's been impactful, from the 100 to the passport to you name it. It's like whatever he gives me to touch, it becomes way bigger than I can even imagine. And that's just a wonderful feeling. Not
Man.
just history, but when people hear your story. And that's the other thing I want to touch on. I know we got to go soon. When I realized I made Black history, it floored me for a minute. But then I heard God say to me, The problem with Black history is that most people only recognize Black history for people that are dead. I want you to be living Black history, that kids can touch you and talk to you and have a conversation with you because you're living Black history. And I want you to talk to schools and talk to colleges and give speeches on different aspects. I don't care what the subject matter is. Go in those places, and I want them to see living Black history. So that's really my whole thing too, is being and living and breathing Black history. And that's what I always wanted to do, is be living Black history. We read Black history books in the history books, but a lot of them aren't alive and they can't even voice how they really feel. Their stories told through bios or from people that knew them. I want you to know who I am while I'm still breathing and thinking and processing life as together to make a bigger impact on the community, a bigger impact on the world. So not just Black history, but I want to be living Black history. So everyone that knows me knows that about me. I don't talk about it, but when I walk in a room, I want that impact because I want God to constantly be exalted through me. Not the other way around. Not the other way around where I'm going within myself in pride.
That's right.
But when I walk in the room, it's God being exemplified, God being ushered in because of what he's done through me. Everything will lead to him if it comes through me. That's how I operate, and I will continue to operate that way.
And we need you to continue to stay at the light in so many different places. I love individuals who keep going and keep pushing with the cause of helping others. And we're so grateful that you came to the Power Up today. Family, Brian Thompson, the Brian Thompson, artist and designer of BT Creative. That is his company. You can get to him on Instagram by going to B Thompsons with an S _ artwork. Go check out his Instagram. And you can also tune in to what he does in the community and through his ministry at easeloutreach.online. Okay, Brian, I got to do this. I promised in the beginning that I was going to give you space to respond to a viewer and do what you do best.
Mhm.
We received an email from a viewer. I'm going to Tammy-rize it because it was pretty long. And basically says, I'm a professional. I'm an executive in my firm. I must show up every day, but I'm struggling at home.
Mhm.
Please give me some tips on how to cope so I don't lose it all. What you got, Brian?
So that right there has a lot to do with self-reflection. To me, it has a lot to do with self-reflection. You show up at work and do your best, but you're struggling at home. You have to tap into who you are at home first. First, who are you at home? You have to unpack that first and look at those areas that you think you're struggling in and ask for help. Ask for help. Therapy is something that I believe in. Get you a therapist to unpack those different things that may be happening at home, because you cannot be effective as an executive if home ain't straight. You can fake being an executive, but you can't fake home, because you got to come home to that after you get off. Home has to be your oasis. Home has to be a place of peace for you. So create peace at home. And trust me, when you create peace at home, you will be a better executive, because you will be able to understand what other people are going through that work for you, because you'll recognize the struggle because you got out of it. So your struggle can now become something that you examine to better yourself. Unpack the struggle, get a therapist, meditate, get a prayer life, join a local church. These are avenues to unpack struggle to turn it into victory.
Did you say you can fake being an executive, but you can't fake home?
No, cannot.
Bruh, that part. Thank you so much, Brian Thompson. Family, Brian, will you come back and be a
Oh,
guest again in the future?
absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
so grateful. Oh, and going to put a shameless plug in for Miss Pam. She is fire in her own right. So we
I
have
believe
got
it.
to get Miss Thompson to come and be able to share some of her amazing motivationness. Y'all don't even understand about the wife. She's a whole different fireball. But
Yep.
we thank you so much, sir, for honoring us today. I know what I pulled you from in your busy schedule, and I'm grateful that you felt it was enough to be able to speak hope and life to our folks. Family, support him. Go to his Instagram. You can go to his webpage, check out Easel Outreach, and check this. Now you can tell somebody, I heard that guy every time you get that paycheck and there's some 50s and hundreds in there. You have witnessed your own moment to tap into living Black history. Brian, I appreciate you, my friend. Family, stay tuned. There's more right after this. See you, bro. Hey, family, it's Tammy, your empowerment coach with this elevation moment. What would you love to do more than ever? If you had time, money, freedom, what would you do? That's what you want to tap into. Fulfillment of your life. While you're dealing with the busy stuff, right? I got the kids and I have to go to work and grocery shop and cook dinner and I'm planning a big event, and it's okay to still be you, but allow yourself an opportunity to enjoy the journey. Oftentimes we get head down, caught up in the tasks, and we forget to notice the beauty of the journey. Make sure that as you live this thing called life, that you do things that fulfill you as well. Put on your to-do list that fun indicator, that happy factor, whatever will bring you joy, so that you're living and doing it on purpose. Hey, welcome back to the Power Up family as we wrap up this amazing show. We started with Inside the News, sharing that the United Nations pulled together a global summit in New York to help elevate our future and develop specific protocol that will help make sure that safety is one of the primary goals for generations to come. The entire network of United Nations, all of the membership, all assembled with the focus in mind to be able to produce information that will help grow. So please tap into the United Nations Foundation to get more information on this future summit, not just what took place, but how you can make a difference where you are. We applaud anytime global leaders get together to figure out how to make our planet better. Because what impacts my brother and sister across the water still could impact their family member who is my neighbor, or their brother and sister who lives across the street, or the fact that we all have to deal with clean air and clean water. So we all matter. Remember, one human race. We also welcome the powerful, amazing Mr. Brian Thompson. Family is the artist and designer, executive of BT Creative. Feel free to tap into his Instagram page, B Thompson's underscore artwork, to get an idea of the different things that he's doing in his personal business through BT Creative. Such a powerful, impactful brother, a real gentleman who's doing the work, not just representing our company, our agency, pardon me, our government for these wonderful 36 years, but using his gifts, his talents to eat, to make money, and to pour back in the community. He did mention art classes if you happen to be in the DMV and your children might be interested. So be on the lookout for those. Also, being the pastor that he is for more than 35 years, tap into Easel Outreach. They're doing amazing work in the community. And I love that he said, we do things differently than other churches, right? Churches are part of a vine. We're all branches, part of the root, the tree. That means that everybody does things differently. So maybe you're not finding what you need at one church. Isn't it wonderful that you can possibly go to another for those who are in the Christian faith? He does conversation through community dialogue as part of how they work through Easel Outreach, and still elevate the gifts and pull out the talents of those who are his parishioners. Family, one of the best parts about the Power Up is that we bring new information. So now you're educated. In case you didn't know, you got a chance to witness living Black history. And yes, when you get paid, that was him. So thank you, Brian, for joining us. We certainly look forward to having you come back. And we're going to schedule, I promise you, for the amazing misses to be a guest on a future show. One of the things we try to do with our production team is always bring you the best. Today was no exception. Wow. If nothing else, you should have received some hope and inspiration. We want to end our show today, as always, reminding you that the worth inside of you is more important than the issues you might be dealing with in life. The stuff that's distracting you, your phone going off every 2 minutes and your thumbs are just scrolling, and before you know it, hours have gone by because you've gone video to video, text to text. That's just a way of stopping you, pausing you, putting a speed bump in your journey. But you still have the power to put that shift back in drive. You have the power to find vision, create your own vision. As Brian said, tap into the resources that you need to help you win at life. I'm also a proponent that supports therapy. I believe in faith and I believe in a mental health. I believe how important it is that we tap into what we need to be healthy as a whole. Mind, body, soul, spirit, finances, whatever it is that we need to tap into so that we can enjoy this journey. Everything doesn't have to be a struggle, but some struggles, as I heard the other day, some storms, they're not meant to knock your house over. They're not meant to beat you down. There are some storms that come so they can clear the way to help you move forward. Family, learn how to dance in the rain and be grateful for every step of your journey because it's all to make you better. We look forward to seeing you at the next Power Up. We thank our military, our veterans. We thank first responders. We thank our medical professionals, teachers, caregivers, whatever you do where you are to make a difference. Come on and knock it out the park. We need you to be the best you absolutely possible because the world needs you now more than ever. Brian's story was a story of victory. Doesn't matter what I went through. It's all to get me to a new place and to maximize every moment. You have the power, family. Come on, be powered up. Let's level up. Let's rise up. Come on, stand up and then show up and do everything you've been created to do in this season so that you can look back next year and say, I did that. I made it through that. Family, we're excited for you. We're on your team and we're going to keep rooting you on, covering you and lifting you. We look forward to seeing you next time.